Well, welcome back to the Payette River for another season of Streamside Stories. Maybe a new season, but the shacket remains the same. Anyway, if you followed along at all last year on these Streamside Stories, you probably remember a place called Three Forks, where we've taken students and have lots of cool ministry stories from Three Forks itself. This story is more about the adventure to get to the adventure and the journey to Three Forks. So a few years ago, when we decided we wanted to start using Three Forks more, we took our summer staff down there on a training trip / a recon trip to figure out all the places we could go there, get a lay of the land, understand it better. You know, it's good to do a practice run before we perform the real thing. It just makes sense. So it's June, it was a wet spring. We get all loaded up. We're gonna spend a few days at Three Forks. We're gonna do some climbing, some exploring, and then we're going to launch onto the river and do the middle of Owyhee, which is a more high acuity, advanced section of the Owyhee River that we do offer trips on. This hadn't done it in a while. So that was our plan. So we have our van that has a bunch of our staff and summer staff in it, and then we have our big truck, our big F-350 with all the boat gear and camp gear and all that in it. It's supposed to be a 4x4, but we drive out to Jordan Valley and then we take a left and start making our way through the desert towards Three Forks, heading south. The Owyhee is one of those weird rivers that flows north, so we got to go south to get to where we're trying to go. And things are going great until we make one turn and we get onto a road that doesn't have gravel on it, and it's quite slick, thick clay, muddy, and it's just flat desert sagebrush. So we have our all-wheel drive van that we affectionately call the St. Bentley, and we have our allegedly 4x4 pickup truck with all of our stuff in it. And we start moving pretty slow, a lot of sliding around. The van doesn't really drive straight. Talisha was driving the van, doing a pretty heroic job, all said and done. Eventually, one of our volunteers, Rachel Hall, is like, I kind of need to use the bathroom. So we pause, she gets out, does her thing. On her way back, and this is key context, Rachel grew up as a missionary kid in rural Africa. So she's learned a few things that those Americans amongst us, mainly everyone else, haven't learned about backcountry vehicle travel. And she just instinctively grabs a few branches of dead sagebrush and throws them under the tires on her way into the van. And by golly, it kind of worked. So as we continue to progress and go slower and slower and we feel the vans drifting around, we start to have to wonder how the rest of our day is going to go. We get word from the guys in the truck that they can't get the 4x4 to work. It's only spinning the rear tires. And if you've ever owned a pickup truck, you know that two-wheel drive in slick conditions in a pickup truck is just the worst. It's impossible. There's not enough weight back there. They're terrible. Anyway, so we start doing what Rachel taught us to do, and we're just like running through the sagebrush, grabbing as many dead branches as we can, throwing them under the tires, just to make a little progress. What we're really worried about is the drive ends by driving down into the canyon. Right now we're up on like the plateau, and then we got to go down to get to the river. We're like, well, if the road is like this now, there's no way we're going to be able to drive these vehicles down and do the hairpin. So we're starting to mentally prepare for this possibility of hiking all of our gear down a muddy road, all of our boats, all of our camp gear, and just leaving the vehicles up there. But for now, we're just seeing how close we can even get the vehicles, one stick of dead sagebrush at a time. So we lay them out in parallels and 11s, maybe 100 feet at a time. We go forward and then the momentum carries us maybe another 100 feet beyond the end of the sticks. And that's how we traveled for a few miles. Eventually we go, well, our afternoon's shot. We're not going to actually get down to Three Forks and do anything today. So we pause and have lunch just right there in the middle of the road. Our vehicles are covered in mud at this point. Yeah, we got this epic photo of us sitting in the middle of the road, in the middle of nowhere, eating sandwiches. We call it our band photo. It's pretty cute. And then we continue on. Ryan, our director, who you've met if you've followed along, he starts to go, we might just have to like abandon the vehicles here and hike in. You know, like we were kind of on just ever slightly of an uphill, which meant we were really not making progress anymore. You know, like the van and the truck weren't staying in the track of sticks we were making anymore. And it was quite noticeable. The rear tires on the truck were literally having the knobs ripped off of them. So that's the way things are going. Through a little persuasion, Ryan lets us continue to try a little bit more. I was like, Ryan, I think we start going just slightly downhill if we can make another 100 feet. And we were like putting people in the bed of the truck to try to get more weight on the drive tires. And yeah, eventually, you know, that slight downhill grade, we got to it, made a little more progress, and then gravel shows up again. And, you know, I'm driving the truck at this point, and I just like, oh, we're still going. I don't choose to stop. So I just keep going, even though a lot of my teammates are off in the sagebrush looking for sticks. But I'm just gonna go until I stop, and I made it a long ways. One of our summer staff, Caleb, he just ended up walking probably about half a mile. It was great. And we were able to make it from there pretty easily to the rim of the canyon, which we were amazed by. That was great. But then we were like, okay, here's our graded road. You know, like we're pretty sure we're gonna have to hike this, but we look at it and it's not the mucky clay that we were getting stuck in earlier. And because it's not really flat, the water, you know, theoretically drains off of it. So you send a couple hikers down and they go, actually, this looks pretty doable. So we take a risk and we send the vehicles down with only the drivers in them. And then we have like spotters trying to show them the way. And we pretty smoothly, without too much problems, we get down to our campsite right along the river in the bottom of the canyon. It's amazing. We really didn't think we were gonna be able to just drive down there. And we unload everything and we're like, okay, we know it's going to rain more. We see big storm clouds, or flying lakes as we've started to affectionately call them. So we leave a whole bunch of the gear that we need for the next 2 days before we push off for our paddling portion of this trip and drive the vehicles to the rim. That way we don't risk getting the vehicles stuck down in the canyon. And we do the thing, we explore, we climb a little, and a couple days later, like, okay, it's time to push off to go on the river, but we have a lot of stuff down there that we don't need on the river. So we go and hike all the gear back to the rim where the vehicles are, other than the gear we're taking on the river. All I had was my giant duffel bag, which is not meant to be doing any hiking with. And when Ryan walked past me, he told me that I looked like a kid whose mom forgot to pick him up from swim practice and I had to walk home, which is a pretty accurate depiction. And there's a whole bunch of stories. You know, Garrett tells the story of the paddling portion on this trip, the manna from heaven. And in some ways, I think the road conditions were a similar provision from the Lord. It's a little dramatic, but when we talk about the experience of getting to this trip and then the continuation of it on the river, we talk a lot like the Israelites in the desert when they were wandering, where we just feel a little lost and confused and we're struggling a lot. The Lord provides just the right thing at just the right time. So, you know, I think moments like that is, thank goodness we had Rachel in her ingenious to throw the dead sticks under the wheels. That really worked. We would have never made it through the mud without it. I think of the road becoming graveled again, right at our point of giving up. And like, I don't think the Lord suddenly threw gravel down, you know, that afternoon, but it was like, oh, our patience and perseverance in this process is being rewarded a little bit. You know, the fact that the water had drained off the road into the canyon well enough to drive, like, thank God. that really saved us a lot of trouble. And yeah, I'm continually amazed how that's a theme on our adventures. That without the Lord, they'd probably be straight up suffer fests. And we don't want those. We want a little bit of challenge and a little bit of discomfort from the norm, but suffering is not our goal. And I think the Lord provides that often. Now, something I share often on trips, especially in the Owyhee region, is there's this journal from an old gold rusher in the Owyhee who describes his crossing of the river as, comparable to how hell was described to him as a kid growing up in church. And yet we go out there and we jokingly say it feels like God has a summer house out here. It's so relaxing and peaceful and just beautiful. And, the contrast of adventuring with the Lord versus without, and the comfort he provides always feels evident on our trips. And this story of getting vehicles stuck nearly to the frame rails in mud and shredding tires and thinking we were going to have to hike all of our gear really just fits right into that. So I figured I'd share. So, thanks. Thanks for joining us for Streamside Stories. Click the link to subscribe and join us for more stories and virtual adventures. This isn't the only way we want to adventure together, though. We also want to invite you to come join us for an adventure and create some stories of your own. To do so, head to www.yd.org to connect with us and our basis to start your journey today. Thanks.